Hi everyone, welcome here. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys what I have been up to for the past week, and that is finding and restoring furniture on a budget for my first apartment. So I'm going to be moving into my first apartment in, oh my gosh, it's a week and a half at the beginning of June. It's scary and overwhelming, and I'm nervous but excited at the same time. The apartment itself is completely unfurnished, which I think is part of the reason why I'm a little bit nervous. As of a couple weeks ago, I had absolutely no furniture to move in with. So for the past few weeks, I have spent hours and hours scrounging Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, other Facebook groups, asking friends, families, neighbors, like literally everyone if they had furniture that they didn't want anymore and they wanted to sell. The vibe that I'm going for my room in my apartment is going to be kind of just antique, old, but with a modern twist. I definitely wanted furniture that was from the last century, but nothing that was just too old, too gaudy, I guess you could say. And I think I found everything that I pretty much need for my basic furniture. I found a bed on Facebook Marketplace, but that is going to be next week's video, restoring that. So stay tuned at the end of next week to see that video. This week's video is restoring an antique desk, an antique chest, and a butcher's block. So the antique desk was my aunt's. She actually bought it as her first desk when she moved into her first apartment. I think it was probably around 1970 in Boston. So it's kind of cool that that's also going to be my first desk in my first apartment. I just like that. The antique chest was my grandparents', and when my grandmother passed away a couple years ago, I took that from her basement. I actually didn't know it existed before then. The third is an antique. It's probably only like 10 or 15 years old, but it's a butcher's block that was also given to me by my aunt, and I'm going to be restoring that to put that in our kitchen. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and let's get into it. So when I picked up a desk from my aunt's house, it was in complete bits and pieces, so the first task was assembling that. There are 5 drawers in total, 3 on the left-hand side and then 2 on the right, and one of the drawers on the right-hand side is like double the depth, I think. This wood, I believe, is maple, but don't hold me on that. I'm really not too educated about my wood species. Basically, what I needed to do with this desk was obviously clean it up, and then the top had a lot of peeling on the wood varnish, so I wanted to completely sand that and restain it, as well as I wanted to spray paint the handles. So I went to Home Depot and found this stain. It's called Colonial Maple, and that looked like it was going to be the closest, so that's just the one I went with. So I started with a 150 grit and then had to switch to a 100 because it wasn't taking the varnish off. And another thing I learned when I Googled this was when you are actually looking to restain something, you want to use a lower grit so that it's rougher, so that it keeps the pores of the wood open. If you use a higher grit, it seals the pores, which means the stain won't absorb as well. I realized pretty quickly that the stain that I had chosen was way too orange and did not match at all. So I found a walnut stain. It was special walnut 224 in case you care, downstairs in my basement, luckily. So mixing the two actually created the perfect match. It's all right. Take those hookers hopping. Jump down, what's that sound? Swing on that and ding, 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 ding. those 2 coats had dried, I went in with polyurethane. It was clear semi-gloss, and I did 2 separate coats of this, waiting for those to dry in between.
Jump town, swing around. It's more than just sock hopping. Jump town, that new old sound. Swing your blues away. Jump town, come on down.
Next, I went ahead and unscrewed those handles so I could spray paint them black, and I also unscrewed the hinges on the chest that you'll see later, but this is just something I did in one step. My next project was fixing up this antique chest. This used to belong to my grandparents, and my dad said they actually used to store old films in it, which is pretty neat. Basically, just what I wanted to do with this was sand it, restain it, clean it up, spray paint the hinges, and poly it, just so that it was kind of refreshed. The body of the chest itself was pretty okay. The top is a little bit warped, but it's really not something that I mind. I used the same stain combination as I did for the desk, so if you remember, it was the Colonial Maple and the Special Walnut 224. My last project was this butcher's block, which was also my aunt's. So basically, the metal was just not in that great of shape. It was kind of rusting. It really needed to be sanded down and spray painted. And the top wasn't in the best shape either, and that really also needed to be sanded down and then just oiled. that is everything for this video. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I do have a bed that I'm gonna be restoring, so tune in next week to see that process. I also have a nightstand, but it's currently locked actually in my dorm room. Still at school, they have not let us in to get our stuff yet. That also needs to be sanded and restained, so I can make a separate video about that in a few weeks when I'm actually like able to have access to it. But yeah, it's kind of a mess, and we're doing what we can. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Bye.